So hello and welcome to this Monday meditation session. And it's very nice to have all of you along, and all of you who are doing greetings. Thank you. And I know so many of your names, either from other occasions or from seeing them here on YouTube chat. And for all of you who are not chatting, welcome wholeheartedly. And I probably, if I was in attending this kinds of session, I probably would not be chatting and saying hello. Just sometimes I tend to be a little bit, believe it or not, maybe a little bit shy or something. So one of the very interesting phenomena about human life is the way that, or say it differently, that there are two words that I like a lot for meditation, little aids, supports for meditation. And they are the words yes and no. And a very interesting aspect of human life is the way that functionally there are times when how we behave, what we do, might be exactly the same whether we say yes or we say no. If you find that your hands are dirty, as mine were yesterday, working in the garden, I might say no to keeping my hands dirty before I go into the house to make dinner. And or I might say yes to having the hands clean so I can make dinner. But the no and the yes both have the same function. I clean my hands. If my mind is caught in obsessions of some kind, I could say no to those obsessions, or I could say yes to the awareness or the mind that's free of obsessions. And sometimes it seems really good and for me to just say yes. I like that a lot. And yes to being aware, yes to being aware of this. It brings me a smile sometimes when I just say yes to being aware of obsessions, aware of thinking. Because in the yes, awareness is stepping away, is becoming free. And then I have to have something to be aware of. And it just delights me that I can be aware of something which is maybe difficult or ways I'm caught up while I'm becoming free. Or I could say no to the obsessions. I can say no. Don't want to do that. No, thank you. In a way that leaves me being aware. So for today, what I'd like to suggest, in the most loving way that you can, most generous, kind, supportive way you can, maybe introduce the word no. There's something very strong in kind of claiming our place, claiming our independence, claiming ourselves here, free of being caught in things that no indicates. So no, just gently, no to keep thinking about this, no to keep pushing something away, no to wanting something, expecting something. No. It's not a no that pushes anything away, not a no that rejects anything. It's a very particular no that says no to being involved with it, to picking it up, no to perpetuating it, no to being involved, being caught. So it's not a rejecting of anything. It's not a pushing anything away. It's just like, no, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to continue doing this. The mind, the heart might have their own ideas and things continue, but you just gently say, no. Stepping away, no. Or it's kind of like releasing from your hands something that's very unpleasant to hold. No. No. And see if that loving no can help you stay aware, stay connected to the present moment. Say the no so that you're more here with this, whatever it is, here. So to assume a meditation posture and to gently lower your gaze or close your eyes. And without doing anything else, appreciating what it's like for you at this moment to be aware. Are you sleepy? Are you eager? Is there clarity? Is there dullness? Is your awareness being pulled into your thoughts and preoccupations? What is it like to be aware? And if you are aware, to take a few moments to be aware of how you are, consciously, intentionally, feeling, noticing, recognizing how you are in your meditation posture. As if you have permission to be this way. But rather than being lost in it, you're knowing it, recognizing it. And then taking a few long, slow, deep breaths. As you exhale, relaxing, softening in the body. Maybe in the deeper inhale, feeling different parts of your body that you can relax as you exhale. And then letting your breathing return to normal. And for a little while, the same exercise with a more or less normal breath. To feel some part of your body on the inhale where there might be tension or holding. And then soften, relax that holding, that tightness as you exhale. And then as you inhale, to feel the thinking mind, any tension or pressure, contraction. And as you exhale, soften the thinking mind. Maybe relaxing micro muscles. Maybe in the area of your brain, your head, your forehead, your face, that somehow are connected to thinking. And then settling in to the body's experience of breathing. Perhaps centering yourself on the body, sensation of breathing. And if you find yourself involved in thinking, gently say no to being involved. If the thoughts are in the background and you're not particularly involved in them, let them be in the background. But if there's some more involvement, you're lost in them or reacting to them, picking them up, participating, a gentle no to doing all those things. And no to step away into being more aware of what's happening. And if there are ways that you're concerned about things almost non-verbally, that you find your attention is locked into some feeling, emotion, sensation in the body, not to say no to any of the feelings or sensations, but to, in a kind way, say no to being involved with it, reacting to it. Where the no is so gentle and light that it itself is part of being free. And if you're not caught in anything, with a light touch, ride the inhales and exhales. you find yourself caught in thoughts or feelings, saying no to being caught, saying no to being invested or holding on, participating. Say gently no, and you might need to say it a few times, thinking that it's an experiment in learning how to say no. So there's a wonderful feeling of freeing, stepping away, making room, breathing room for awareness. And then as we come to the end of this sitting, to take a few moments to recognize, feel how you are right now. How are you now compared to how you were at the beginning of the meditation? And how is it to be aware? How is it to be mindful? Is there an appreciation for awareness itself? Appreciation for attention and to the present moment? Appreciation for mindfulness. Maybe it's simplicity as you sit here still in the meditation posture. And might there be a healthy, wonderful, supportive way of saying no, lovingly no, to yourself when greed arises? No. Makes room maybe for generosity. When hostility or resentment arises, no. Making room for respect and care and love. No. To when all kinds of crazy thinking, delusive thinking spins around. No. So there's a better chance for what? Wisdom, clarity, awareness. Is there a way of saying no to being shut off or pulled away or being aggressive in relationship to other people? The no that allows you to be there. All of you present, attentive to others. And with that full attention to have goodwill. May the people you encounter today benefit from your ability to be awake, present, attentive, aware, without clinging, without preoccupation. May that awareness be the vehicle for your goodwill. May all beings be happy. May all beings be safe. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be free. And may each of us, in any way we can, however small, contribute to the well-being of this world. Thank you. welcome to this Monday when we start a new 5-part series. And for this week, I'd like to introduce you to some of the main themes of ancient Buddhist teaching that I translated. For about 20 years or so, I studied a particular Buddhist text that became kind of foundational for my orientation, or supporting my orientation of Buddhist practice. Some of you know that some months ago I talked about core Buddhist teachings for how I teach, and that's a kind of a naturalistic form of Buddhism. And a lot of this comes from, or supported by, or inspired by a particular text that then I translated and published as a book called The Buddha Before Buddhism. And the idea of calling it the Buddha before Buddhism is something like the Buddha's teaching before Buddhism, or the Buddha's teaching before it became Buddhist. So with the idea that over time, maybe even in his own lifetime, but over time, the teachings got more organized, more systematized, more developed, more expanded. And the core simplicity of them sometimes got lost. But the earliest version of these teachings were really radical in many ways, in going back just to the central core of practice. So the name of the text that I translated, the literal meaning in English is the Book of Eights, which is a very uninspiring title. And so I titled my translation and commentary on this ancient text, The Buddha Before Buddhism. So people would ask a question for themselves: what might have been the earliest teachings of the Buddha before it became a religion? And there are scholars who believe that this text is maybe the earliest, oldest Buddhist teachings that we have. That maybe they were given, in the first years of the Buddha's teaching, or well before the layers that got added to it, those teachings in the generations right after the Buddha. And so I would like to read a couple of short paragraph or two from the introduction. What may be perplexing to many is that the Book of Eights does not espouse a religious doctrine that exists in opposition to other doctrines, nor does it put forth a teaching that is meant to be seen as superior to other teachings. In a manner that challenges the religious beliefs of many people, including many Buddhists, the text explicitly denies the role of ultimate religious truths and religious knowledge in attaining personal peace. Instead, the text points to a direct and simple approach for attaining peace without requiring an adherence to any specific ideology. The possibility of this peace is what guides the teachings and practices in the text. The value of these teachings is not the profundity of their philosophy or their authority as scripture. Rather, they are valuable for the results they bring to those who live by them. Instead of doctrines to be believed, the Book of Eight describes means or practices for realizing peace. So it's almost as if it's pulling the rug from underneath many of the usual ways in which people relate to religious teachings. People often involved in religion want to have their religion be ultimate, be the most amazing, the most wonderful, the most true. And we have this big orientation towards having truth. And sometimes that gets in the way. Sometimes that leads to religious wars, that I have the truth and you don't. And rather than kind of lobbing onto the truth and knowing the certainty and this assurance that you have what's the most real, the most true, the whole orientation of this early text was to look in a different direction, to be concerned not with truth and ultimate truth, but be concerned with peace. And so here, the goal put forth in the Book of Eights is described both in terms of states of mind to be attained and the mental activities to be abandoned. Peace and equanimity are the most common descriptions of what is attained, and clinging, craving, being entrenched, and quarreling are activities most frequently said to be abandoned. There is a clear relationship between the states to be attained and the activities to let go, in that to experience peace for oneself, one must release one's clingings. The person who realizes this is called a sage, or muni, an ancient Indian designation for a wise or holy person. So becoming wise is to understand clinging and let go of all of them. So I would like to read one passage. There are 16 poems that make up this text, and some of these poems have 8 verses, and that's maybe why it's called the Book of Eights. Having views about what is ultimate, a person makes these the best in the world and calls other views inferior. As such, they have not gone beyond quarreling. Seeing benefit in things seen, heard, and thought, or in precepts and religious practices, and then grasping at this, a person then sees all else as inferior. What one relies on in order to see all else as inferior is an entanglement, say those who are skilled. One should therefore not depend on things seen, heard, or thought out, or on virtue and religious observances. Pretty radical. Nor should they make up views of the world by means of knowledge, precepts, and religious observances. Nor would they think of themselves inferior or superior to others, and they shouldn't take themselves as equal. So neither better or worse than others, and also not equal. What's left? What's left is letting go of what is taken up. The person free of grasping does not depend on knowledge, or take sides with factions when factions disagree, or fall back on any kind of view. One not inclined to either side, to becoming or non-becoming, to here or the next world, there exists nothing to get entrenched in when considering the doctrines others grasp. Here one does not conceive the slightest concept in regard to what is seen, heard, or thought. How in this world could one recognize a Brahmin who does not take hold of views? One does not prefer to take up any doctrine. A Brahmin, a kind of a wise person, not led by precepts and religious practices, who has gone beyond, does not fall back on belief. That person is one who is thus. This wonderful expression that rather than being better than others, worse than others, inferior, superior, rather than having ultimate teachings and seeing other teachings as being poor or bad, one lets go of all clinging, including to all stories and ideas of who one is. And this wonderful expression, one who does thus is one who is thus. And I think it's a wonderfully generous thing to say, thus. Who are you? Thus. Without definition. A thus that includes all of who we are. No part left out. but it doesn't need to be named. It doesn't need to be constricted or limited in any way. And the most unlimited way of saying, who are you? Is saying, I am thus. Like this. And open our arms and just say, whatever you see, whatever is here, with this. Why do I have to define it any more than that? And it's a very radical text, and over the next 4 days I'll go through 4 of the major themes in the text, and hopefully you'll appreciate a text that's been very important for me and inspiring for me, and maybe you'll find this useful. I'll end with one more part of a poem from it. This is one of the most touching poems in the book, I feel, maybe in all of Buddhism, because the Buddha is talking about himself in a very touching way, about how he was before he was enlightened, his process of coming to become enlightened. And he talks about his own kind of anguish. He says, violence gives birth to fear. Just look at people and their quarrels. I will speak of my dismay and the way that I was shaken. We often don't hear the Buddha talking about himself that way. This is before he was enlightened. Seeing people thrashing about like fish in little water, and seeing them feuding with each other, I became afraid. Many people are afraid these days. The world is completely without a core. Everywhere things are changing. Wanting a place of my own, I saw nothing not already taken. I felt discontent on seeing only conflict to the very end. Then I saw an arrow here, hard to see, embedded in the heart. Pierced by this arrow, people dash about in all directions. When the arrow's pulled out, people do not run, and they do not sink. So, pulling out the arrow is the core teachings of this text. The pulling out does not require ideology, does not require Buddhist abstract teachings and philosophies. It's a very simple, direct message, and that Buddhism began with this message. And then there were maybe layers and layers of complications that got added over time. And I find it very refreshing to go back to the simplicity of this text and reminded of the simplicity of the path, the way to a profound form of peace. So that's the task for the next 4 days, and to go through this a little more. And I hope you do find it interesting. Thank you.